Hey guys, yeah, sorry for the wind or anything. I'm outside. It's nice now. It's right about in the mid 70s as we speak, going into the 80s, but it's the mid 70s right now. But I wanted to read something off that I'm sure, just Alex, formerly the Lex Man, is going to probably talk about in a video if he chooses to do so. I'm sure, OTRS Central is going to touch upon as well if they feel like it. And I definitely know the likes of JD is going to talk about and is off the script, as well as I know perhaps Solomon is going to talk about this weekend during his, podcast if he doesn't talk about it tomorrow night during his SmackDown and Rampage review. But the news going around, and the title says it best, and I have a printout of the initial page, if you will, of what was tweeted by Andrew Yang. Now, in case if that name sounds familiar to a lot of wrestling fans out there, it's because of the fact that Andrew Yang is an actual politician. He is a person that, from what I understand, has some political pull in Washington as well as in New York. He's trying to run for governor of New York next year, and he's tried to get some kind of position of power in the Biden legislation, the Biden administration, if you will, as far as like laborers, like labor, employment, and stuff like that. Well, Andrew Yang for several years has been kind of targeting Vince McMahon in WWE. Well, I wouldn't say kind of. I would say at the times he's allowed to do, because a politician like him is has a busy schedule. He has basically been trying to target Vince McMahon, and the fact that he wants basically Vince McMahon and WWE to come out and tell the truth. And that truth is that as much as they like to come out, that being Vince, Stephanie, Shane, Paul Levesque, Triple H, if you will, and any other people in charge at WWE or have some kind of political corporate pull or position of power, he wants them to come out and basically admit that as much as they're proud to say that all the superstars, men and women, from Raw, SmackDown, NXT, 205 Live, and so on, are independent contractors and are free to do what they want, he wants them to come out and admit that that's a lie. He wants Vince and all of them to come out and say, look, these are not independent contractors, because if they were, you wouldn't be taking away the Twitch streams, if you will. You wouldn't prevent them from doing their own merchandise with places like Pro Wrestling Tees. You wouldn't be preventing them from performing in other promotions if they feel like it. You wouldn't be doing any of that if they were independent. So what he wants basically out of WWE is for them to just come out and say, yes, what everybody suspected for years, if not decades, is true. Our superstars are not independent contractors, they're employees. They are employees. And that's all he wants. But the reason they won't do that is because there are certain amenities that come with basically acknowledging the superstars, the men and women, as independent contractors, that they could get they could I guess, what's the word I'm looking for, that they could basically relish in, that they can basically take advantage of. But Andrew Yang is like, not so fast. He's like, not so fast. We're not playing that game. And basically, like I said, over the past couple of years, he's been trying to get them to admit that. He's been basically trying to catch them in a lie. And he's felt that with the Biden administration now in place, and basically Democrats kind of controlling a majority of Washington for the time being, as well as other parts of the country, he basically feels that the time is right to go after WWE and get them to admit, the truth. Get them to admit, the fact that the superstars, past and present, are not independent or were not independent contractors. They were in fact employees. And this is what he said today. He posted this today at about 6:35 a.m. Pacific time, which I would assume is 9:35 a.m. Eastern time. But this is what he posted, and I quote, "Had a call with the Department of Labor. If you're a current or former WWE performer who feels you were misclassified as an independent contractor, contact and he gives contact at LK Middle LBD, which is Lucas Middleburn, Lucas Middleburn, who is the union side labor attorney representing airline and professional sports related labor groups, including professional fighters. And let's get what Vince owes you. Been a long time coming, but this storyline is real. Let me reread that. He states, and I quote, had a call with the Department of Labor. If you're a current or former WWE performer who feels you were misclassified as an independent contractor, contact Lucas Middleburn, and let's get you what Vince owes you. Been a long time coming, but this storyline is real. And then he kind of quotes something that Bo Dallas would go with, like, all you have to do is believe. And he says early returns are positive. And he's replying to a lot of people. Now, some people have actually basically tweeted back at him. Some people have actually tweeted back at him. Two of the most prominent ones that I could see here are Don Tony and Kevin Castle. Here's what Don Tony asked in a tweet back to Andrew Yang. He says, and I quote, this is Don Tony, formerly of the Don Tony and Kevin Castle show. Now it's just the Don Tony show. Here's what he has to say when he retweeted back to Andrew Yang, and I quote, sir, which State Department of Labor did you contact? And if this attorney goes after WWE, what about other wrestling companies who used talent the same way? In the end, watch how few wrestlers publicly bite at Mr. Yang's fishing line. And and he's got a point there. Don Tony does got a point, because there's a lot of companies that have contractually signed talent. But what some people later on, and I only printed out the first page here, what a lot of people try to debate and defend later on is some of these promotions that do have talent contractually assigned to them, they allow that talent to go outside and perform elsewhere. They allow that talent, to do their own merchandise. They allow that talent, to, have Twitch streams, live streams, and all that, whatever you call it, without any interference from the promotions they're contracted to. That's the one thing, that people will defend these other promotions that Don Tony is bringing up, like AEW, Impact Wrestling, Major League Wrestling, you name it. And then what he says at the end is, watch how few publicly, quote unquote, bite in Mr. Yang's fishing line. And what he's saying by that is, even though Andrew Yang has the best intentions for, the wrestlers of WWE to, get what they're owed, whether the former talent or current talent, Don Tony feels, being a wrestling fan and being in the business himself for many years, he feels that nobody's going to really bite because they don't want to risk maybe being blacklisted, in the business. Like let's say for example, Roman Reigns. Now some people might say nothing would happen to Roman, but let's say Roman is the first one to speak up and say, hey, I'm going to bite. I'm going to take Andrew Yang's advice. I'm going to get what's really owed to me, because if I was an independent contractor, they'd let me go here to prove that I'm everything that I say I am on SmackDown. Or that they let me go there or here or whatever. Let's say Roman was to do that. What Don Tony's bringing up here by saying very few would bite is because, let's say Roman does that, WWE could basically blacklist him. They could blackball him from the business if they felt like it. Which is why Don Tony's saying watch very few bite, because they don't want to be blacklisted. They don't want to be blackballed. Now, he's not the only one that responded. His former co-host on the Don Tony Kevin Castle show, Kevin Castle, also tweeted back to Andrew Yang, and this is what he asked, and I quote, if it's anything like the... okay, let me reread that. Hold on. This is what Kevin Castle had to tweet back to Andrew Yang, and I quote, if it's anything like that flop of an attempt to be our New York City mayor, Vince has nada to worry about. Sorry, dude, I was a fan, but in the end, you are just another BS politician. And, he's going, and basically he has a right to his opinion there, because he's going off based, he's let me reread this. Let me hold on. Let me catch my breath here. Woosah, okay. But what he's going off of is, past experience that Andrew Yang has been in. Like, his attempt to be the New York City mayor, he failed at doing that. And now he feels that all Andrew Yang is doing is just being a BS politician by spouting a lot of BS again, which will amount to nothing. Which, basically coincides with his former co-host Don Tony had to say. Now others did respond as well. One person named Wiretap responded and said, "Reminder, Yang said he'd do something before, but instead decided to speculatively lose a mayoral campaign while WWE fired an unprecedented amount of people during a global pandemic as they made record profits." So what they're saying is that, Yang had said he was going to do this before, but then instead decided to focus, on trying to run for mayor, which Kevin Castle brought up, that he failed in doing so. And because he decided to focus more on his mayoral bid in New York City, this allowed WWE to basically fire a lot of people during a pandemic, at the same time they made record profits. So in other words, he's stating that, hey, while you did this, what you could have prevented from happening occurred at WWE. And there's other people that talk about it. I'll provide a link to the tweet down below, and you guys can check it yourself. But yeah, it seems that Andrew Yang is, as of right now, depending on how he follows through on this, is basically set the foundation. He's basically put the ball in the courts of each and every former and current WWE talent, that is, currently, in the business still, or retired from the business, or what have you. He's put the ball in each and every one of those courts, and all he's asking for them is to contact this Lucas Middleburg, and try to get what's owed to them. Try to get what, basically what's owed to them. Try to get some compensation. Try to basically get, in the end, WWE to either back up what they say and let the men and women that even currently work for them do their own thing and all that, or come out and admit that the men and women that are on their roster are indeed employees. That's it. So we'll see what happens. I mean, Don Tony, I think he's got a point. Very few might, take the bait because of the fact that they don't want to be blacklisted. Well, he didn't say, that part, but that's what I see. Because when Don Tony is saying, watch how few wrestlers publicly bite at his fishing line, again, the feeling I get from that is, he believes no wrestlers currently on the roster or formerly of the roster are going to want to bite, because knowing how WWE is and the pull that they have, political wise and and otherwise as well, like business wise, political wise, the influence they have overall, they don't want to end up probably being blacklisted or blackballed. Again, I go back to Roman Reigns. Let's say Roman Reigns is the first to step up and say, hey, I want what's owed to me. I want to be allowed to go out and do my own thing, go to these other promotions, even though they're on other networks, confront their champions, or do this, do that, because you say I'm an independent contractor, let me do that. What Don Tony's getting at with that last line is Roman won't do that, not because he's like the face of the company right now, no. It's because of the fact that if, let's say, Roman was to do that, he could be, and this is why Don Tony says very few would bite, he could be blacklisted. He could be blackballed from the business, period. Which means he wouldn't be able to go anywhere. Maybe not even go into other fields. He'd be blacklisted. He would be blackballed. The same for, let's say for Xavier Woods. He has the Up Up Down Down channel here on YouTube, right? Let's say Xavier Woods is like, you know what? I want to go try competing in AEW, but I can't right now because I'm part of WWE, but I'm an independent contractor. So I should be able to do that. Xavier Woods, he could go to Vince and say, hey, I want what's owed to me. I talked to this guy. I want what's owed to me, or I want you to let me go out and be what you promote us to be an independent contractor, do my own thing, sell my own merch, do this, do that, perform in other promotions while I'm still with you guys. What Don Tony is saying in that last part is someone like Xavier Woods, he was the attempt to do that, not only would he lose his up, down, down channel, but he'd be blackballed. He would be blacklisted from the business. That's what he's getting at. Guys like, let's say Xavier Woods and Roman Reigns, for example, not saying that's ever going to happen, but let's say, for example, if you will, they would have stepped up and do what Andrew Yang is suggesting. What Don Tony's saying is, in response, is that they wouldn't. Or if they would, they get blackballed. Which is why Don Tony's saying guys like, let's say, a Roman Reigns and Xavier Woods wouldn't do what Andrew Yang is suggesting, because they would be blackballed. Because if they did, like I said, that's what he's saying. That's what I think of. That's potentially, knowing how WWE is, how you view, depending on how you view them and everything, vindictive, vengeful, whatever. That's what they could potentially do, because they have so much influence and pull in the business overall. But yeah, all Andrew Yang is saying here is, look, I contacted this Lucas Middleton. I'm giving you guys the ball, putting it in all of your courts. Those of you that currently work for the company, those of you that formerly worked at the company, guess what? You want what's owed to you from Vince? Here's your chance. Here's your chance. Hit a three-pointer, do a slam dunk, hit a grand slam, run a Hail Mary, catch a Hail Mary. Here you go, balls in your court. Do what you gotta do to get what's owed to you. But there are those that are like, like Don Tony, they're saying, look, this is great and everything, but I don't think anybody's gonna bite, because they're afraid they might get blacklisted or blackballed. Again, prime example, Roman Reigns or Xavier Woods, if they were to do it, by going off of what Don Tony says at the end of his tweet back to Andrew Yang, if they were to do it, they would probably be blackballed, knowing how WWE is, which is why very few, as he puts it, like a Woods or a Reigns, or let's say anybody in NXT, would bite at the chance to do this, because they could not only be fired from WWE, but they could be blackballed in the business entirely. So, yeah, apparently, like I said, Andrew Yang is, on the verge, or at least has now put the ball in the court, and all he's asking for them is to try to score a three-pointer, catch a Hail Mary, run 100 yards back for a touchdown, hit a grand slam, do what you have to do to get what's owed to you. But we'll see what happens. But anyway, let me know what your thoughts are down below about this whole thing. Comment if you like during the live chat during the premiere. Like the video. Check out the Teespring store. But yeah, Andrew Yang put the ball in their court now, in each and every one of their courts now. Let's see what happens.